So, I think you guys have all heard of at least one presentation from us before. We're the Universal Batch Converter. We're trying to convert everything. These introductions again. I'm John.
I'm Alex.
Frank.
We have John, who's not here.
Yeah, John, he had to go home. But right now, if you go to our website, we do have releases out for Linux and Windows, both 64-bit and 32-bit, although it really doesn't matter if you have a 32-bit version on 64-bit because our program isn't doing any of the work. And the general idea of the whole thing, if you haven't heard, is we have a front end essentially for all converters. So there's open source libraries out already, such as FFmpeg, which does video, Lane, which does music, there's ImageMagick, which does images, all these converters that do different things. So our general idea is we're trying to create one front end for all of them, so you have one program where you can convert any file to anything else. And the batch part of it is you can convert lots of things at a time, and it'll do it in a multi-threaded manner. We don't have Mac support yet because we don't have a Mac, so I've been trying to get OS X running in VirtualBox without success. I have a custom bootloader which it just crashes when I try to run it, so I'm still trying to figure that out. If anyone else has already done that at any point, I would love to hear from you.
One thing worth bringing up for the releases is that for the most part our releases are old and or buggy or both at the moment, but that's also because our source trees, we have a whole bunch of new bugs. Because we have a whole bunch of new features, but they brought new bugs. So, once we get those cleaned up, we'll have actually a good release, and then we'll make a blog post about it. So.
Yeah. Although the current release does work, it's just a lot harder to set up. No, you can make it work.
Well,
there's instructions.
It doesn't work out of the box.
It can work. It's just hard to set up.
Yes.
So we're trying to make that easier. So the major milestones that we have done since the last time we gave a talk was we made file formats case insensitive for one. Before, if you had a capital wave, it wouldn't recognize it as a WAV file, and so we just cleaned up all that. We also added video support. Finally, we implemented FFmpeg at last, so we support I'm pretty sure every format in the world now. So that's good. And then we have pretty much every major format is supported, except for we're lacking document support at the moment. So we support all major music files, all major image files, video, and that's pretty much out of the box. So due to licensing issues, we can't package executables with our program. So right now, the current instructions to install it are you download it, then you install ImageMagick, which just happens to come with FFmpeg, and then you can do everything else too. We're trying to work on that. We need a better deployment system. So we also improved the GUI, and we added a plugin configuration menu, which will tell you what you can do, what you have installed, and what you need to have installed for it to work. And I'll show you that later in a demo. We implemented some other just technical things. STD out redirection. Before, we assumed that a program we call would make a file of the output, although some converters will just send it to STD out. So we now redirect that to a file if you need to. And then another major thing was program authentication. We were having a problem before where if you had another executable named the same thing as the converter you're trying to call in your path, it would call that one instead of the actual one. So we added an option when you're making the plugin for you can give it an argument and make sure the output matches what you expect it to match, and it just verifies that that's the right one. So it'll actually find the correct one. And a good example of that was there's a file in System32 called convert.exe, and ImageMagick also uses convert.exe, but it finds the Windows one first. So we were calling some Windows executable with all kinds of cool things.
Sure. So some important bug fixes we've had recently. Conversion modes. We had some when we implemented the signature checking. The conversion, we originally weren't resetting the converter back. I did kind of a dirty hack to let you put arbitrary arguments in for checking like whether it was the converter you thought it was, but it screwed everything up, which is why the release out of the box, ImageMagick will produce any file you try to convert. Whatever the image file result is, if you open it as a text file, it will be the output of the ImageMagick dash version. So we fixed that in our tree. Identically named binary character programs. That again, Alex talked about that. That's been resolved due to the signature checking. Thanks. Oh, issues loading plugins. So, with part of that, the way we're doing the signature check is we call the program at runtime when our program's loading, and so we'll get the program and read its input back. But we've run into problems where sometimes the programs won't come back. Like Image Magic in particular, you'll exec it and it'll just hang. And the way we're currently doing it is our program will wait forever for it. Well, sort of the way we're doing it, and that's no good because then it looks like our program hangs. Even though it isn't our fault, we still have to deal with it. So we're still working on that. If anyone has experience getting Linux to kill off programs that aren't behaving nicely without causing bad things like X errors, I would love to talk to you.
Also, our current plan for dealing with it, which we haven't implemented yet, is we're going to have a timeout after the last output from STD out was received and make it much smaller. Currently, how we resolve it is we have a timeout after it starts of 100 milliseconds, which we can't do that for everything, because if you were to hang during a large video conversion, we wouldn't know. And if we had a timeout on that, then you only give it 100 milliseconds to convert a video, and that's not going to be.
We don't actually use it for conversions.
Yeah, but we need to eventually.
Probably. Yeah. So other things, we fixed lots of various bugs with things. Our add text was half cut off in Linux because we were trying to make the Qt doesn't actually let you control which side of the if you have a button with text and an icon, Qt won't let you pick which side you want it on. And John really wanted the arrows on the side that so the arrow is pointing out from the side of the button. And he came up with a dirty hack that worked on Windows, but it didn't work at all on Linux. So
he actually just added spaces before
Yeah.
add and made it right align. It was essentially Linux aligns differently.
we restructured a bunch of code. We have deoxygen documentation now for a bunch of our code. That's again, I think, out of date
Very
because
pretty.
Yeah.
it is very pretty.
We will update every release. We'll probably update all the documentation on the website. Right now, it's for the last release, which again is very old. We have a lot of things we need to add to it. For instance, I said we implemented FFmpeg for video conversion. Well, right now it just uses the very basic conversion with all the default settings, which is I think 64 bits per second, and it's very, very bad quality. So the next thing we have to do in the program is we have an advanced button that's just kind of grayed out right now, and that's where you would set all the bitrate options, codecs, stuff like that for the particular conversion you want to do. So that's not done yet. And then we have a lot of bugs right now that they're not, I don't know, they don't kill the program, but they make it kind of awkward to use. For instance, if a conversion fails, it might tell you, it'll lie to you, it'll say it completed, and then you'll go to the directory and it won't be there, so we got to clean up some stuff that happens like that. Another thing, again, if anybody has any experience doing this, for progress, if FFmpeg, as an example, doesn't give you any indication of the progress, it has how many bits it's writing, but doesn't have any time left or how big of the file will be. So I was thinking we could just guess and try to show some kind of a progress based on that. If there's a better way to do it, I don't know of it, so I got to do a lot of research there. Because right now our progress bar only shows total number of files converted out of the total number of conversions you're going to do. It doesn't show individual conversion progress, which is necessary. And then other things, we need to support Unicode. If you have Japanese characters in the file name, it won't be able to read it. Well, it'll try, but
It usually manuals the file name right now.
yeah,
So.
you'll get some weird boxes
Yeah.
in there. But then we need to have better standardized releases as opposed to now where we just kind of build something and put it up and it usually works. We need some kind of a process to follow where we'll have like a standard release and it'll have a 32-bit version, it'll have a Linux version, it'll make sure it supports all the different flavors, it'll come with all the DLLs it needs. One of our releases didn't. And then we'd like an installer for Windows so that you can select different packages, which would just represent what kinds of conversions you want to do. So for instance, in the install you'd say I want to be able to convert video, audio, images, or whatever, and it only install the components you need for those conversions. And then, like I said before, we need better document support. We can read all documents and convert them to text and HTML, but we can't do anything else with them. Like, you can't convert from a PPTX to an ODT.
We actually do support, this is brand new, but if you're on Linux, well actually I don't know that this will work on anything except Linux, but if you're on Linux with OpenOffice installed and you have this one Python script that I found, it'll automate OpenOffice to do conversions. So, and it works sometimes, but it also sometimes just hangs. So, it's another one of those things that needs to be resolved.
So thanks to everyone, to Dorothy, to Shauna Sullivan for the donation, to the Facebook Hackathon. We got a lot of features implemented on that night, and fellow RCOS members. Are there any questions before I do a demo, or do you want to say demo first?
With the hanging on Linux and the plugins, are you forking?
Yes. Specifically in the loading stage, what happens is we fork an exec and then we were calling wait null, which it just waits for the child process to return, which is great as long as the child process returns, but that doesn't always happen. So we've been throwing around a couple ideas to that. One option is to do our converter loading in a separate thread. One option is, again, just to kill it. I tried trying to get the thing where it would wait a little while, and if it exceeded the time, it would send signal 9 to it, kill it off, which got it past that error, but it was causing corruption. When I ran that, the program got through the converter loading and then crashed due to an X error. So I think and it did that reliably, although there were different X errors every time. So I think there was I think that's causing corruption, and I think I need to be nicer about killing the program off. I have to spend more time with it, but.
So real quickly, I'll just do a quick demo showing off our new video support. So we can take this wildlife sample video from Windows, and we can